Hello and welcome to Fit News. I'm so excited. Today I have a very special guest to share with all of you. Candace Jax is here. And I know that sleep is something that many struggle with. In fact, I read an interesting fact today that said nearly 50% of the people in the US report some sort of sleep issue. So let's talk about Candace, because she, after working in marketing positions in corporate America for several years, Candace spent 14 years managing a healthcare practice and struggling with certain aspects of her own life. She found a new purpose in health and wellness coaching. Now, as a certified sleep, stress management, and recovery coach, she's passionate to share her knowledge about the universal healthcare provider, sleep. No matter the ailment, sleep can help, right? Reminding her clients that we cannot pour from an empty cup, she educates with compassion, enthusiasm, and the belief that we all deserve to live long, happy, fulfilling lives. Candace is also a certified sleep science coach, certified holistic nutrition and wellness weight loss coach, and a certified group fitness instructor. And she's going to chat with us today, all things sleep, bedtime routine. And we know that if we're not properly preparing ourselves for a good night's rest, that the best sleep environment in the world won't matter. So Candace, let's chat some sleep today, because Perfect. As I said, so many people struggle with sleep, and we know that sleep plays an integral role in our overall health, in our whole health, if you will. I mean,
yes. You and I have talked about that golden triangle: sleep, activity, nutrition.
Right.
And I honestly believe sleep is the basis for everything else.
Right.
Definitely.
Right.
So thank you very much for allowing me to be here today, by the way.
Of course. I mean, and I also feel that in a go, go, go society that we live in, where we're always go, 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 that sleep kind of loses its importance. And a lot of people wear that,
as
a badge of honor when they don't sleep. Oh, I only got 4 hours
of sleep last night.
Right?
Exactly. And then we glorify the hustle. We glorify the hustle. And it's to such a detriment too, but definitely. Hopefully, as people become more aware, we can get the education out there. Sometimes I think it's, people, that whole mentality, I'll sleep when I die kind of thing. But I also don't know that everyone realizes what exactly takes place when we sleep, what happens, and why is sleep important besides just your mom always told you needed to get, 8 hours of sleep or whatever.
Right.
So,
right. Let's talk about that, because we do know, as we were saying, that it is an important part of our overall health, because we know that, chronic lack of sleep can lead to increased risk of heart disease, diabetes, obesity, cancer, dementia, just to name a few. Those are big things.
Just to name a few, yes.
Just name some big things, right?
Yes. And first things first, I want everyone to realize that sleep is a skill. Being able to sleep is a skill. It can be developed. Just because you're having difficulty falling asleep now, or you feel like you never get enough sleep, it doesn't have to be that way forever. And hopefully, as people are more educated, they realize that. And, we all have a sleep drive, just like a hunger drive. We're just not in tune with it. And like you said, it's, I've got too many other things to do. I'll do that some other time. And often it's not our ability to sleep that's the problem. It's the way we think about our ability to sleep. And I know you've talked about mindset with Rachel on a podcast, and so we'll go into that more in a bit. But for those who maybe aren't aware of all the ways that we're affected by sleep, every physiological process in some way is regulated or influenced by sleep. This includes the restoration of our cells and tissues, especially after you get a good workout in. If you're doing that resistance training like we all should be, you need that rest. Emotional regulation, it improves our mood. It makes us less impulsive, allows us to make better decisions, especially if someone is on a weight loss journey. it is known that people who have not slept enough, on average, eat about 300 calories more a day than
Right.
someone who hasn't slept enough. They
Right.
also have more difficulty regulating their moods. You have increases in anxiety and depression. And again, whatever health journey you're on, sleep is a part of that.
Right.
Sleep is important for the removal of waste and toxins, not only in our body, but in our brain as well. The lymphatic system is how we get rid of waste in our body. The glymphatic system is how we get rid of waste in our brain. And that is 60% more productive while we sleep than when we're awake.
Wow.
What is it
That's
removing?
big.
It's big. It's huge.
That's
And
a
it's
big number.
removing, yes, it's removing the protein that accumulates in the brains of Alzheimer's patients. So think dementia, all of that. Your body needs that time to get all that out of our brain. Immune system modulation, of course, with the pandemic and everything else, we need to give our immune systems every boost they can possibly get.
Right.
It is when we consolidate memories from short-term to long-term. It's also important in the processing of information and learning. It's also important in maintaining proper metabolic and endocrine function. Again, we talked about how those hormones that regulate blood sugar, lipids, hunger, appetite, satiety, all of that, it affects all of that. And as you were speaking earlier about what can happen when we don't sleep enough, in June of 2022, the American Heart Association added sleep to their cardiovascular checklist, recognizing healthy sleep as essential for optimal cardiovascular health.
Wow.
That's
again
big.
Another big thing. Right. That's huge.
Yes,
That's
definitely,
huge.
especially women our age, if you're talking about, menopausal women and so forth. But, how much sleep do we need? Well, they say adults typically, again, there's no one size fits all as everything. Typically adults 18 to 64 need somewhere between 7 to 9 hours of sleep.
Okay.
Adults 65 and up should aim for at least 7 to 8. Now, I just find that so ironic that once we're retirement age, we don't need as much sleep when we actually have the time to sleep, but
right. The irony.
Exactly.
Right.
And keep in mind that when we say sleep, that doesn't mean like you're going to bed at 10, you're getting up at 6, so that's 8 hours. No, we all know that you don't just get into bed, immediately fall asleep. Well, at least I don't.
Right.
So, you have to give yourself enough sleep opportunity to get that, 7 to 9 hours of sleep as well. So
I think that's a great point that you bring up, because I think some might be thinking, oh, well, I'm doing that, like you said, the 10 to 6, right?
They're not counting the time that, it took 20 minutes to fall asleep. They woke up once and had to go to the bathroom and couldn't get back to sleep. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So we have to allow ourselves enough time. One of the first things, though, that I think we have to do, if you ask me for recommendations for better sleep, is we have to prioritize it. And we have to prioritize sleep. Just what we were saying earlier about, glorifying the hustle, and don't need to wear it as badge of honor.
Right. Because it's not. It's not.
No.
It's the exact opposite.
There's no such thing as I'll catch up on the weekend. Your first couple hours of sleep a night do help, go against your sleep debt, but it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
We don't just get to sleep 12 hours and boom, we've made up everything. It doesn't work that way. And we can say we prioritize sleep, but do our actions match our words? Just like someone who says that they prioritize exercise, but they don't go to the gym. You know what I mean?
Right.
You have to make sure that what you're saying is actually what you're doing.
Yeah.
And someone made fun of me because I said, we would never say, well, I'll catch up on eating on the weekend. No, you wouldn't.
That's great. Right? I love it.
And so don't say you'll catch up on your sleep. It's that important to me. And I know, especially as moms, spouses, people with a lot of responsibility, sometimes, I know for me, the only time I had to myself with no one asking me for anything, when the house was quiet, was when everyone else went to bed. So
Right.
what did I do every night? I
Right.
put everyone else to bed.
Yep.
I stayed up too late just because I wanted that quiet time.
Right.
Now, looking back now, the best thing I could have done for myself was to go to bed with them and just get up a couple hours before they did to
Right.
get things done. But
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of moms fall prey
Right.
to the not enough sleep, is because we just want that alone time, that quiet time.
Right.
So,
Right. And then, also, as you were saying, a lot of midlife women are part of that sandwich generation, right? They're taking care of their own families, but then
yes,
they're also taking care of
their
aging
parents.
parents or aging relatives or something. And then they're kind of left in the middle, not taking care of themselves. And
Yes.
then, like you said, the sleep is the first thing really to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just think it's about educating people.
Right.
We just need to get some more education out there. Another interesting note, according to neurologist and sleep researcher, Dr. Kristen Willmeyer,
Mhm.
every hour of sleep we get before midnight is worth 2. So going to bed at 10 is like getting 4 hours of sleep by midnight instead of 2.
That is
Yes.
interesting.
Yes.
That is really interesting.
And I'm not going to get into the whole science of it and the circadian rhythms and everything,
Right.
but there are certain processes that take place in our body at certain times of the evening. So if
Okay.
you're constantly going to bed 2 and 3 hours later than what we should,
Mhm.
you're missing out on some of those, reparations or something that are taking place. So
Mhm.
it's very fascinating if anyone's
Yeah. No,
interested
it is.
to research that. But my second recommendation for better sleep is simply consistency. Consistency is key, as with
Yeah.
everything. We're doing
Anything,
our
right?
nutrition or exercise, but our brains crave consistency.
Right.
So we need to get up and go to bed at the same time every day, even on
Yes.
weekends,
Yep.
which is so hard. And, 1 or 2 hours is, one thing.
Right.
But again, thinking you're going to sleep till noon just to make up for what you've
Yeah.
missed the week doesn't work. And another important thing is your wake time should not depend on your sleep quality. So if your alarm goes off at 7 and you think, oh man, I slept like crap last night, I'm just going to sleep a couple more hours. Don't do it. Get up.
Okay.
Yeah, get up anyway, because all you're doing is, messing up that system. Going
Interesting.
forward.
Interesting.
Yes.
That's a great point, because I
Yes.
think a lot of people would go
Yeah.
ahead and do the opposite.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm. They also say, though, side note, we get on these little tangents.
It's all
that
good.
if you have to wake with an alarm, you
Yeah.
haven't slept long enough.
Oh.
We should wake up before our alarm goes off. If you if
I know
you
my dog does.
find alarm, you have that sleep inertia.
Yeah.
That means you haven't slept enough. So you need to be
Wow.
going to bed earlier and
Earlier.
giving yourself more time. Yes. And that's the other thing.
Nice.
We need to pick our wake time first.
Oh.
And here's the problem: one that realistically works with our lifestyle and our schedule. And I think that's where behavior change is fascinating. We feel better in the moment by saying, oh, I'm going to go to bed and get up at such and such time,
Uh-huh.
because we feel better in the moment saying it. But when it comes to reality, it's not possible for us. It just doesn't work in our schedule.
Right.
So pick your wake time first, one that
Okay.
you can adhere to,
Right.
and then work backwards from there.
Oh,
So
that's
if you
great
know you
advice.
if you know you need to be
Yeah.
up at 6 and you want to get at least 8 hours of sleep per night, then you would have to be in bed by at least 10, but as we just said,
Mhm.
probably 9:30 to
9:30.
give yourself
Yep.
that sleep opportunity.
Right. Right.
Another recommendation is prepare your sleep environment. That has to do with your bedroom and then all your immediate surroundings.
Mhm.
Again, we don't really have time that's a whole nother subject to get into.
Because sleep hygiene is very important. We're
Yes.
not talking about taking a shower and all that. I mean,
Yes.
although a warm shower or bath does help
Yes,
to
it does help. Yes.
good
And
sleep.
yes.
But I mean, when we're talking, sleep hygiene, we're talking about the temperature, the
Everything. Yes.
Darkness.
What is in your room? Yes.
Right.
Everything.
Clutter, right? And
Yes.
declutter.
Oh yeah. Clutter is horrible.
Right.
In your bedroom. And which is funny because a lot of times when we have stuff, we don't have any place else to put it. Where do we shove it? In our bedroom, because it's out of sight, it's not in sight. But yeah, you're talking about, how much light is in your room, no TVs. TVs are horrible in the bedroom for multiple reasons. Stress-free, clutter-free. Is it cozy? How is your mattress comfortable for you? If you've been sleeping on the same lumpy mattress for 20 years, no wonder you're not sleeping well. So yeah, temperature, all of that.
Yeah.
But then what I wanted to speak about today, because as you and I said, sleep environment doesn't matter if you're not getting that bedtime routine down to get to the bedroom. So creating a bedtime routine or pre-sleep ritual, whatever you want to call it, again, by performing the same activities in the same order every night, our brains come to see those as activities as precursor for sleep. Again, our brain craves consistency.
Right.
And I like to say, when you had younger children, would you allow them to run around, eat sugar, have a bunch of caffeine, and wrestle around and watch a bunch of scary movies right before bed? No.
Right.
We wouldn't. That doesn't make sense. We had a bedtime routine for them.
You're right.
We should have one for ourselves too.
Yeah.
We need bedtime routines.
Yep.
And
never
one
too old, right? You never outgrow the bedtime routine.
No. One of the first things we need to do, which we're all guilty of now, is put down the phones, turn off our tablets, laptops, whatever electronic device you like to doom scroll on 1 to 2 hours before bed.
Yeah.
More if you can. But it's the light that affects our sleep-wake cycle. And the blue light emitted from electronic devices is wake promoting, which suppresses melatonin production, which is a hormone very important for sleep. And it keeps us alert and awake, which is obviously the last thing we want to do. Right.
Opposite of what we're trying to do, right?
Yes, exactly. And if you must watch TV, which I understand that's how a lot of people wind down, one, don't have it be some exciting cliffhanger or anything that you're watching. But two, there are a ton of blue light blocking glasses out there that you can get on Amazon or anywhere.
Right.
You can even get a prescription now. But wear those to help block that blue light if you must be on the TV and so forth.
Yeah.
That also includes your environmental lighting. So about the time the sun is going down, unfortunately in Ohio, that feels about 3 o'clock right now.
Right.
You can turn off your lights or at least dim them, use dimmers. You could also just light a few candles and turn everything else off. But you want to mimic that sunrise, sunset.
Okay.
An important thing to remember is that the bedtime routine allows us to separate our day from our night. It clears our mind and our body of the day's stresses, and it's going to be different for every person. We keep every podcast. That's one of the things you guys talk about. It's different for everyone. So you may have to try a few different things that we're going to talk about and just see how it works for you. What works for one person may not work for someone else. Right. But some ideas to consider when we're talking about our pre-sleep ritual is read a book. Reading can be very relaxing.
Right.
I prefer to have the book. I'm not a person that likes to read on a device.
Right.
And they actually looked at the difference between reading a paper book versus an iPad screen.
Okay.
And found that even when someone gets 8 hours of sleep after reading on a bright screen, their sleep quality is still impaired.
Oh, wow.
The diminished melatonin production caused by screens makes it harder to fall asleep. And once we do fall asleep, it's less restful with less time spent in REM stages. So yes, I guess it's better than most things, but, and I guess it's a generational thing too. I just, grew up on books, but if you can, listen, just grab yourself a book.
Get that book at the library or the bookstore.
Exactly. Listening to relaxing music is good. Studies show that adults who listen to 45 minutes of relaxing music fall asleep faster, rest longer, wake up less during the night, and feel more rejuvenated upon waking.
Oh, wow.
So again, get out, just
Right.
Turn off the TVs, grab your book,
Grab
listen
a
to
book
music.
and turn your music
Yes.
on. That's right.
Meditation is obviously good for a
Right.
pre-sleep ritual. You can look into apps like Calm or Headspace for guided meditations. If you're new to meditating, yoga and stretching is amazing to do before you try to go to bed. Obviously, it's not only good for relaxation, it's good for our mobility
Right.
as we get older.
Mm-hmm.
A warm bath or shower, as
Right.
you mentioned, is also very good. An Epsom salts bath is great because the magnesium in it is great for sleep.
Yeah.
You can also add relaxing essential oils like lavender, chamomile, peppermint, or sandalwood are good
Nice.
ones for sleep. Another one is journaling. Do a brain dump.
Yeah.
So many people, it's funny. I have people say, well, I don't understand it. If I'm on the couch, I can fall asleep with the TV on. And as soon as I get up and go into the bedroom, I can't shut my mind off.
Right.
And I mean, racing thoughts are a huge problem with trying to get to sleep. So they recommend have a piece of paper, a journal, a pen, something next to your bed. When something is keeping you up, write it down. Sometimes just the act of getting all of those thoughts out of your brain and onto a piece of paper can help soothe your mind, knowing that, okay, I'm not going to forget anything. Maybe it's your to-do list. Someone's afraid they're going to forget something. Then take the time to write it down so you don't have to worry about that.
Yes, great advice.
It is the fear of forgetting something. Sometimes that creates that.
That just keeps that brain going and not allowing it to relax. Yeah.
I'm guilty of, I have my phone, so it turns down, the light changes, after a certain time of night, but there are times where I have to grab my phone and just send myself an email. So all of a sudden I'll be like, oh my gosh, I forgot something. So I will do that. Deep breathing exercises. I know you guys have talked about breath work and so forth on the podcast. That's a great one. You can do progressive muscle relaxation, lying down in bed. Which is great. Again, people can Google this and or go to YouTube. There's always going to be a video on YouTube.
All go, right?
Also, acupuncture is actually an underused, but it's scientifically supported alternative therapy to improve sleep.
Oh,
who knew?
Right.
I didn't know that until I started studying it.
Yeah.
Importantly, when we talk about these things that we can try to help us relax, we have to try and test. If someone tells me that they can't get to sleep, they're just a poor sleeper, the first thing I'm going to ask them is, how do you know? What have you tried? What have you tracked? As we all know, where our attention goes, energy flows. So try some things and keep a sleep log. That's one of the first things I have people do when we start working together is keep a sleep log. That means, what did you eat right before going to bed? What time did you go to bed? All of that information. You don't really know until you track.
And that's just it. The tracking is such an important thing with all things, whether it be diet, exercise, sleep, whatever, because so often we think, oh, I'm getting this many hours of sleep, or I'm doing this. But really, when we put pen to paper, right, then we see, oh, you know what? That
and if people tell me I don't have time to get that much sleep. Well, here's a time study. I want you to track how you're spending your time every 15 minutes of your day. And I bet you we can find time, just like exercise. Nothing burns my husband's butt more than someone saying, well, I wish I had the time to exercise like that. Well, he makes it a priority. That's why he finds time to exercise. While you're sitting on the couch watching TV for 3 hours after work, he goes to the gym first. So again, it's all about what's a priority to you.
Right. And sleep needs to be one.
Yes, it does. And don't try doing 5 things at once, just like New Year's resolutions. When again, behavior change, we feel better in the moment saying we're going to change 5 things all at once. It's not sustainable. Our brain craves consistency, so it is going to fight you. So try 1 or 2 things max and track it. See if it helps. If you try 5 things and all of a sudden you notice you're sleeping better, you don't know which of the 5 things
was helpful.
Sleep better. Yes. I'm guilty of doing that so many times. But anyway, moving on, timing is everything. We need to get bright light as soon as we get up, first thing in the morning. Preferably natural light, but if not, I know you were talking about vitamin D and being in Ohio in the winter. I actually got a therapy light recently.
Oh, right.
And I swear by it.
Yeah.
I turn it on for at least a half an hour. Dr. Chatterjee, who I love his podcast, if anyone's looking for another one to listen to besides yours.
Okay.
He says 10 before 10, try to get 10 minutes of natural light before 10 o'clock every day, whether that's, if it's bad weather, just sit next to a window where you can get as much natural light coming through as possible, even when it's cloudy. Even better, if you can get your exercise, your activity in first thing after waking outdoors, that's even better for us.
I love the 10 before 10 though, because that is something that seems very doable. And that's what's important. Is the doable aspect, right?
Yes. Yep. Just like starting with 10 push-ups or 10 squats or whatever, 10 minutes. We can all do 10 minutes. As far as timing goes, we also need to have just a small to moderately sized meal, no later than 3 to 4 hours before bedtime. Our body can't concentrate on all the repairs it's doing. If all of a sudden you shove a meal in and go to bed, now all of a sudden it's busy digesting a meal that it wasn't anticipating.
Right.
So again, and that's also good, for weight loss. If we're considering our weight too, that's not good for weight management. We don't need all those added calories right before bed. Not like we're burning them off.
Right. I just don't feel good though when I eat late. You just don't feel good. And then I feel like I don't sleep well either. So that's why,
Yes, exactly.
I'm good with that early 6 o'clock dinner, 5:30, 6 o'clock, because
yes, exactly. Because that way when you can just go to bed when you're ready, go to bed. Here's a very unpopular one: avoiding caffeine after lunch. Which again, caffeine
kind of makes sense, but so it shouldn't be unpopular.
I know. And again, caffeine affects everyone differently. So listen to your own body. But the reason caffeine is such a problem is the caffeine binds to the same receptors in our brain as adenosine. And adenosine is the neurotransmitter that causes sleepiness. So if the caffeine is binding to that receptor, adenosine can't until that caffeine wears off. And we all know about the half-life of caffeine. It takes quite a few hours to get that out of our system. So that's the big reason they say to avoid it. You need the time to get it out of your system. Yeah. They also say delaying caffeine until 1 to 2 hours after you wake supports our circadian rhythm.
Oh, so that's interesting, because I would think, people immediately upon waking, what do? You grab your coffee, you grab your tea.
And that's another thing, just like the alarm clock, if you have to grab your caffeine first thing when you get up in the morning, you haven't slept enough. Yeah. So, try some water, stretch. If you get sleepy, then try stretching, take a walk around the block or something. But yeah, and avoiding it after 2 is best if we can do that. Avoid alcohol. I know you and Pam had a discussion about this. So many people swear that it helps them get to sleep. Well, it might help.
Probably does help them get to sleep, but not stay asleep. And that's the important component.
Exactly. It is a sedative, so it will help you get to sleep, but it just tanks the quality of your sleep. Avoiding late night nicotine if you're a smoker. No difficult or stressful conversations within 2 to 3 hours of bedtime. And, my husband actually taught me this, whether it was he and I, which we don't, honestly, I'm very fortunate. We don't have many of those, but with our kids, do not start yelling at them about their homework or whatever, and then expect them to go to bed and be calm enough to go to sleep. That really hit me when he and I first talked about that. So again, nothing stressful. Table it till the next day. And then napping, actually an early nap is okay. But keep it 30 minutes or less, and nothing after, they say typically after 2 o'clock, after that lunchtime. But I'm a big proponent for napping. It's funny because an early nap adds to the previous night of sleep, but a late nap actually subtracts from your upcoming night of sleep.
Wow.
So do it early. And then just some notes about aging, being the menopause fitness specialist you are. The time it takes us to fall asleep, sleep latency does increase with age. It just does.
Right.
Waking up after sleep onset increases with age.
Yes, it does.
Up to 42% of perimenopausal women have trouble sleeping. And according to the Sleep Foundation, about 61% of postmenopausal women struggle with some amount of insomnia. So you might be thinking, Candace, why are you telling me this? This is not making me happy at all. I'm just including that information to show that you're not alone.
Right.
That some disruptions in sleep are completely natural, and we can't allow them to be a cause for increased anxiety. It's a fact of life. It's not necessarily something we can control. Right. So if nothing else, when you go to bed, make relaxation your goal, even if it's not sleep, because relaxation can be rejuvenating to the body. Right. Not as good as sleep, obviously, but at least it is. If you wake up, and if you're one of those people that you wake up and feel you can't get back to sleep in the middle of the night, then do something that we've talked about earlier. Do a jigsaw puzzle or something by very dim light or candlelight. Right. The worst thing to do is to turn on those blue lights.
Right. Don't turn on your phone. Don't turn on your tablet. Yes. Don't turn on your TV. Don't turn on any device. Yes,
any devices. And that, along those lines, do not go to bed if for some reason you aren't feeling sleepy. If you think, it's 10 o'clock, I have to be in bed. If you're not feeling sleepy, it's just going to exacerbate the problem for you. Yeah. Try doing something relaxing before you get into bed.
Right.
And then really one of the last things I wanted to talk about is our mindset, if we have the time.
Oh yeah, of course.
The label we use to describe ourselves is not trivial in anything in life. The same goes for sleep, whether you label yourself a good sleeper, a light sleeper, a poor sleeper, it all matters. It's also demonstrated that the way we view ourselves as sleepers and the labels we give ourselves may actually be more predictive of daytime dysfunction than our actual sleep quality.
Right.
So in other words, if you view yourself as being a confident, good sleeper, you may function as well during the day as a person with far better sleep quality.
Right. I mean, it comes down to, again, mindset matters, right? With anything.
It does.
Whether it's sleep, whether it's your diet anything. or your exercise, whatever it is, it's your mindset matters. So if you're constantly telling yourself, oh, I'm not a good sleeper, or I can't sleep, or this,
I believe in the law of attraction. What you put out in the world comes back. So be careful how you talk about it. Right. And if you have to, fake it till you make it. If someone asks you, how are you? Say, good, I slept great last night. Yeah. Usually it's, oh my gosh, I slept awful. I feel awful. Just tell people, act like it. Just like anytime you change it, you want to change a habit, you have to act like the person you want to become.
Right.
Act like that person. Say you slept great, and then just keep doing that. The other thing is visualize having the perfect night of sleep. What does that look like for you? What does your bed feel like? What's your bedroom look like? Where are you? Just visualize that entire process and just keep doing that. So when you go to bed at night, just visualize it. Right. And
that's a useful tool in many areas, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. And, as with everything, give yourself grace,
right.
You're not going to get a perfect night of sleep every night. And focus on what we can control. Is this not a huge problem always?
Oh, yeah.
Their helplessness and fear are the fuel that power insomnia. And education is the solution.
Oh,
that's where our power lies.
I love that.
We can control prioritizing. I'm sorry?
Say that one more time.
Fear and helplessness are the fuel that power insomnia, and education is the solution. Yep. It really is. We can control prioritizing our sleep. We can control our bedtime routine. We control our nutrition, how much we're moving throughout the day, what time we go to bed. We can't control aging, hormonal changes due to menopause and other life changes, the demands of our job, other people, or all aspects of our outer environment. So we have to control what we can and let go of the rest. And if sleep doesn't happen, like I said, just relax and enjoy the peace and quiet. It is restorative as well. And, you know, I know, I think Aisha had talked about cortisol and stress and that fight or flight thing. Stress is a huge problem in many areas of our life. And obviously sleep, huge. Stress is huge when it comes time to sleep. So if you're truly having a problem sleeping, maybe one place to start is getting your stress under control, because you're not necessarily going to get one if you have the other. Right.
Yeah. That stress management is also important.
It's key. It is key for sure.
Yeah.
So hopefully I shared something that will help someone today. And again, sleep environment's huge. And one thing I will say about environment is, if you are a person who wakes up in the middle of the night and looks at the clock, turn it around. That's one of the worst things you can do. One is, if it's digital, it's the light, that's affecting you. But two, here you are asleep, you wake up, you look at the clock, all of a sudden you're doing math in your head. Like, well, okay, if I sleep in the next 15 minutes, I can get,
got a whole story problem going on.
Yes, seriously, turn it around. Put a cover over it, do something, but turn it around. And that's just one of the environmental and factors that can affect our sleep. But most importantly, you need to get that bedtime routine down, to get yourself into that sleep environment to begin with.
Yeah. Wow, Candace, you shared so many good nuggets today.
I hope it wasn't too overwhelming. Many things. It's so hard to narrow it down.
Well, it is, but what you shared was a great place for everybody to start.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of, let's get back to doing what we did when we were 2 with a bedtime routine.
Yep. It matters.
Yeah, it does.
It matters. And, along those lines, I'm of the age where I could have grandchildren. But if you're the age where you have children, we really need to model it for our kids too.
Right.
We don't want them growing up thinking sleep isn't important, that if I have something to do, it's always going to be more important than getting to bed early. Whatever. And that's something I wish I had known sooner.
Yeah, we all do. We're all in that boat together.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Good.
And lastly, I just want people to know, if you truly are having a problem sleeping, and you feel you may have insomnia, I mean, there's a checklist of things that you have to be able to say you're experiencing to truly be diagnosed with insomnia. Please see your doctor, go to your doctor, but not capital NOT to get a pill.
Yeah.
That's usually the first thing they want to do, is throw a pill at it. Please try everything else you can before going that route. And if you are having such a difficult time that you go to your doctor, ask them to refer you for a sleep study.
Right.
The wearable devices and all that are great, people think, but they're not necessary. It's just like, our activity trackers and everything. They're not regulated. 2,
they're not accurate.
To get accurate tracking is to actually go have a sleep study done. And actually, the number one treatment for insomnia should be CBTI. They call it cognitive behavior therapy for insomnia. It's talking to someone. That should be your first route. For treatment. Okay. But it's not something to take lightly.
No. And I have really also heard
your life.
I think, maybe a lot of people have, maybe don't want to go down that sleep study route because they don't want to be somewhere else. And I've heard that now they're starting to do sleep studies in your home.
Would that surprise us with all the the technology and everything?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So at least you are, because that's what, most people think, well, how in the world am I supposed to get to sleep?
I can't sleep at home. How am I going to sleep?
With all these electrodes and blah, blah. Yeah. But it is worth getting checked out. I unfortunately can remember even in grade school, having difficulty sleeping. My sister would be asleep. We shared a room. She'd wake up 2 hours later. I was still awake. And little did I know I should have gotten help way back then,
Yeah. Right.
So, but it's not something I really talked about. I just thought that was normal.
Well, right. Right.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right. And as you said, it's about educating, right?
Yeah.
Because that's how we're going to help to improve the mindset on sleep, the importance of sleep, the prioritization of sleep, and
Yeah.
then which leads to better health.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
Good. Candace,
Mhm.
if people want to get in touch or get more information from you, where can they find you?
Honestly, the best right now, because I'm working on a website, is Candace, Candace, at wantwellness.com. And that's WHANT wellness.com. And that want stands for wellness through habits, activity, nutrition, and timing. And that timing includes our sleep, our circadian rhythm, and all of that. And for any of your listeners that would like to maybe go a little more in depth with me, they can just email me and say they heard me on your podcast and get 50% off a consultation with me.
Okay.
And
Wonderful.
if they are interested in learning more about how maybe they can sleep better, I'd love to help as many people as I can, because it truly makes a difference in your life.
Right.
It is that magic elixir that's inclusive. It's free.
It's free, right?
And everybody and it helps everyone. Yes.
Yeah.
For sure. Thank you again.
Thank you, Candace.
Jen. It was a pleasure. Anytime someone gives me the opportunity to talk about sleep, I'm going to.
Well, it's, as you know, as we've said a million times, it's so important, and getting that education out there is also so important. So thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you for doing what you do. I love listening to your podcast. I learn something every time.
Well, thank you.
Sure.
All right. Thank you for listening to Fit News. We'll catch you next time.